we got to get to the Republican side to get their insight. This is Byron Daniels, and then we're going to go over to House Speaker Mike Johnson to get their perspective of what's going on with this budget deal. Make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notification. Let's get it popping.
Elon Musk says the 1,547 page...
Hold on. Before we get into this, Class E Beats, I was thanking you earlier in the show about everything that you did for the platform and the fact that you sent this to me, my guy. I appreciate you, Class E Beats, for holding me down for all of the new stuff that you... I said, what is going on here? I knew immediately it was from you. Shout out to my dog. Let me give a round of applause for Class E Beats. Bought me all of this good equipment. I didn't even know that you was buying all of this good equipment. This is why people love me. People show love to Tom Dog, and I show love back. Shout out to Class E Beats, and make sure y'all go and check out his platform. He puts on a phenomenal show also. Thank you, Class E.
Continuing resolution to keep the government running should not pass. Now listen to what Speaker Johnson had to say about that.
I was communicating with Elon last night. He said, we understand you're in an impossible position. Everybody knows that. Remember, guys, we still have just a razor-thin margin of Republicans. So any bill has to have Democrat votes. They understand the situation. They said, it's not directed to you, Mr. Speaker, but we don't like the spending.
Come on in, member of the House Financial Services Committee, Byron Daniels. Congressman, this bill will fund much of what DOGE is looking to cut. What's going on?
Unfortunately, this is what happens in the lame duck here on Capitol Hill. Listen, there was a historic election, a mandate given to President Trump. People want government efficiencies, they want lower spending. But the swamp and, frankly, congressional Democrats want what they want, and it was that or farmers suffer. And it's a very unfortunate bill. Listen, what we have here is a bill that puts disaster recovery for a state like mine of Florida and many other states, and that was held hostage to get EV mandates and all this other stuff through this package. Personally, as a member, I have to vote no because I'm not voting for this kind of garbage. This is a bad bill. It should not pass. Elon Musk is correct. A lot of my colleagues are correct. In my view, we should go back to the drawing board immediately. Disaster recovery should move on its own. And when it comes to the other functions of government, it should be a slim deal until Donald Trump comes back.
That's what they tried to do back in late last 2023 when they tried to shove through the border deal that that Kamala Harris kept saying that Trump killed. They tried to package it in with a bunch of other bloatware, and that's how they shove a lot of this stuff in, and why you see such huge government bills, even though we're not getting representation the way that we're supposed to. And so what they'll do is they'll say, well, wait a minute, we got to give $50 billion over to Ukraine. We got to give $9 billion over to Taiwan. But if you don't give it to us, then we going to let the farmers suffer, or we going to let the people that is affected by the hurricane suffer. We're going to let disaster relief suffer. So then what they'll do is they'll come back like Hakeem Jeffries and they'll say, see what they doing? They're holding up funding for the farmers. They're holding up funding for disaster relief. They're holding up They're holding you over a barrel. I can't believe that they're going to let you suffer. But the right hand don't know what the left hand is doing, and the left hand don't know what the right hand is doing. And so this is what they presenting to y'all like this. But really, they got a whole bunch of bloatware inside of this hand, and that's how they get their friends paid. They got their friends getting paid and catching all of the billions and the trillions of dollars, and they continuing to push through these EV mandates, even though they know that people don't want EV mandates, and they want the option to be able to choose for themselves, and they'll push all of that stuff through and then try to pretend like, oh man, wait a minute. It's the fact that they don't want to help the American people. They want to see you suffer. No, they don't want to keep kicking the can down the road, and they want to actually get to the thing that's killing American jobs and killing the American economy.
Then if you vote no, if it goes down to defeat amongst Republicans, then you're going to have Democrats to pass it and keep the government going. That is likely to happen. How do you feel about that?
That's something I just simply don't like, but I would say that's up to the members of my conference of Republicans, because there was a mandate delivered in this election, and it was not for business as usual. It was actually to trim spending, to cut spending as it needs to be cut, to have the government be more efficient, to not fund or do extensions to institutions that have been suppressing free speech, that is, frankly, are now being sued by conservative media groups for suppressing free speech. The election was clear. The mandate is decisive. So it is incumbent upon us, if it means we have to come back after Christmas to clean this up, then that's what needs to happen. But doing this before Christmas is not the answer.
But do you think this is what Donald Trump wants? I mean, he's about to get into the Oval Office on January the 20th. Does he want a government shutdown and this big fight over what's spending and what's not being spent right before he assumes the Oval Office?
Yep.
Well, listen, honestly, I think with President Trump, he's focused on his presidency, which starts on January 20th. What this is cleaning up the last days of the worst administration we have ever seen with Joe Biden. And that's why my position for months has been we shouldn't even be negotiating with Joe Biden.
I don't think, listen, let's be honest. Byron Donalds smartly and wisely, strategically, let's just be 100% honest. I'm going to be real with y'all. And I love Byron Donalds. And I think that Byron Donalds is right on 100% of what he's saying, but he sidestepped the question purposely. And he sidestepped the question because he doesn't want to answer for what it is that Trump is doing. And I 100% agree with Trump also. But this is what Trump is doing. Trump is saying that I don't want to inherit a trash budget that we can't fix until 2026. We have a mandate from the American people that says that they want us to fix what has been broken over the last 4 years, and they want us to fix it finally and strategically, and they want it to be right. You're not going to pass a budget that is absolute trash. I think that Trump would have rolled with it if it wasn't so much trash that was in it. If it wasn't so egregious, Trump would have rolled with it. But until then, Trump don't want to come in on January 20th with a bad budget bill that's already passed that they can't fix until 2026 or 2020, late 2025, early 2026. So what he did was he said, listen, this thing is so bad, and it is. And just because it's a bipartisan deal does not mean that it makes sense. Either y'all can pass a temporary measure to temporarily keep the government open, which they've been doing for year after year after year, so it's no different here. Either y'all can pass a temporary measure and keep this government open for the next 30 to 60 to 90 days, and then we going to come in and do the real work of what the people want, but y'all not going to saddle me with this trash budget that I can't solve for, and then you're going to try to hang it on my head and hang this economy on my head when we told the people that we was going to actually fix it. And so he absolutely made phone calls, and he said, we're going to kill this deal, especially after Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy decided that they want to chime in and said that it was a trash budget. And it is. It's a trash budget. And you're not going to saddle us with it for the next year.
We all know he's not running the country right now. Let's be perfectly honest. We should not even be negotiating with him. We should be figuring out what is passable going forward, and that is all. No more, no less. And the most tragic thing is that you have family farms and areas that have been ravaged with natural disaster are being used as pawns to get through the same Christmas omnibus that not just members here hate, but the American people despise. That's the frustration that Elon Musk has said. That's my frustration and a lot of my colleagues on Capitol Hill, but we'll see what happens.
All right, so let's go over to Speaker Mike Johnson and see what he has to say about it. He appeared on Fox News also.
It's a total dumpster fire. I think it's garbage. I think that it's shameful that people that celebrate Doge coming in, and yet we're going to vote for another $1 billion to be added to the deficit. And so
$1 trillion.
It's ironic.
It's opposite of what the Doge Commission is trying to do. So am I voting for it? No, I'm not.
We're just fundamentally unserious about spending. And as long as you got a blank check, you can't shrink government. If you can't shrink government, you can't live free.
Well, there you got some Republicans on Capitol Hill calling it a Christmas present Americans shouldn't want. Others call it a dumpster fire as the House tries hammering out a deal to fund a government spending bill and avoid the Friday midnight shutdown deadline.
The government is going to shut down. It's going to shut down, and workers is going to be temporarily furloughed, and it just is what it is. I'm just telling you right now, they're not going to get a deal done, in my opinion. I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'll come back and say that I was off on it. But they're not going to get a deal done before Friday night. They're not. They're not. The best you can hope for is some temporary extension to where they allow themselves to fund the government for the next 30 to 60 days, 30, 60, 90 days while they continue to negotiate. And they get, a whole new slate of legislators in there to where Republicans basically control the Congress. They control all three houses. But they're not going to get a deal done. If you are a government worker, go ahead and buckle up, Buttercup. It's coming. It's not going to get a deal done by Friday night. And they shouldn't have waited this long in order to present this so that things would go as bad as it's going in the first place.
Deadline.
So will it pass? They got 72 hours. House Speaker Mike Johnson joins us now. Now, Mr. Speaker, you expected some blowback when you were putting this together as you try to get across the finish line and have the government pay for itself up until March. What could you tell us about this bill, and does it disturb you? Some Republicans seem to be very critical of it.
No, look, those are three of my great friends you just quoted there. They're not wrong about the government debt and deficits. It bothers us all. We've got it in our central focus. And when we start the new Congress in January, when Republicans are in control and DOJ is working on all 6 cylinders, we're going to be able to scale back the size and scope of government. But before we get to that point, remember, right now, we only control 1/2 of 1/3 of the federal government. Remember, Democrats are still in charge of the Senate and the White House. So what we've done is the conservative play call here, my friends that you just interviewed there, or that those clips were played, were part of this decision. We decided, even though we don't normally like short-term stopgap funding measures, it made sense here. Instead of doing, Chuck Schumer and Biden spending for 2025, we pushed this decision into March. It'll be March 14th. So the feature there is that we'll have Republican-controlled Congress and Trump back in the White House, and we get to decide spending for 2025. So that was a good thing. Yeah.
But Mr. Speaker, I think the confusing part is because typically when there's objection to bills like that, you hear the Freedom Caucus, which you heard Chip Roy. But you even have moderate members who are in big races. You got Mike Lawler, who is not, an extreme, fiscal conservative, but he's saying the same thing. So how did you lose the Freedom Caucus and the moderate members?
This is the sausage-making process, okay? Here's what this bill entails. It's a short-term funding extension until March 14, and that would have been an easy thing relatively to pass. But here's what happened. We also had to add, and due to circumstances outside of any of our control, emergency funding. We have 2 major emergencies. We had a record historic hurricane season that we all know, Helene and Milton and the rest, that destroyed a big swath of the country. We have to have funding for that. That's $100 billion to rebuild 6 states. And then on top of that, we have our farmers, our small farmers and ranchers, our food producers in this country are in jeopardy of going under permanently. They've had 3 lost years in a row, primarily because of Bidenomics and inflation and lots of other factors outside their control. So for the first time since I've been in Congress, guys, in 8 years, it's not just farmers and ranchers urgently needing the help. We now have the creditors, the lenders, the banks who give them those loans, who are saying we have to have a stopgap measure. So when you add those things in, here's the other thing to remember. Our Democrat colleagues who have to vote on all this, they don't prioritize agriculture. They don't really care that much about farmers and ranchers because they're in rural red districts, right? But that's our food supply. If we crush domestic food supply, that is a direct threat to national security. We need all those small farmers and ranchers, and that's included in the bill as well. So when you add all those things together, that's what makes people nervous because the price.
You really don't have a choice. We have to fund those. We have to fund FEMA. We have to fund our farmers.
Right. And Mr. Speaker, it's not just, so you've got a bunch of Republicans who are angry at you. They don't like this. And just in a couple of weeks, you're going to stand once again to run for Speaker of the House. And you don't need a bunch of Democrats mad at you. But and this is breaking news you do not know. You know who also does not like this? Elon Musk, the world's richest man, just tweeted, this bill should not pass. The only way you're going to be able to pass it now, Mr. Speaker, is with Democrats. If you could, what's your message to Elon Musk?
Well, I was communicating with Elon last night. Elon and Vivek and I are on a text chain together. And I was explaining to them the
Mm.
background of this. And Vivek and I talked last night about almost midnight. And he said, look, I get it. He said, we understand you're in an impossible position. Everybody knows that. Remember, guys, we still have just a razor thin margin of Republicans. So any bill has to have Democrat votes. They understand the situation. They said, it's not directed to you, Mr. Speaker, but we don't like the spending. I said, guess what, fellas? I don't either. We got to get this done because here's the key. By doing this, we are clearing the decks and we are setting up for Trump to come in roaring back with the America First agenda. That's what we're going to run with gusto beginning January 3rd when we start the new Congress, when Republicans, again, are in control. And all of our fiscal conservative friends, I'm one of them, will be able to finally do the things that we've been wanting to do for the last couple of years. Right now, Democrats still control the pens, and that's the problem. So we got.
Hey, talk about a flex. You know what? After he just said that, I realized I need a better text group. I, I need new text groups. He said, listen, this is what Elon Musk just tweeted. He said, yeah, you know what? Me and him and Vivek, we was all in a text group text chat last. Jesus. Yo, I need a new text. I need a new text group. Maybe I'll participate more if I had more serious friends that decided that they actually wanted to participate in the text group. He said, listen, we already been talking. We already been having a conversation. He said, yeah. Vivek said, and Elon said, before they even texted y'all, already knew what the play was. So we already working together. DJ A said, Anton, you don't text. I would if I had a text thread with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. I would text a little bit different. But I mean, he's absolutely right if you just break it down. I think that one of the things that's going to make this presidency so great is that everybody is playing a role, and nobody is trying to step out of line, and everybody eating. Everybody gonna grow. Everybody gonna get it. Everybody gonna become successful. The American people is gonna prosper as a result of it. But everybody that's in these legislative branches, they are working together. They are not working against each other. And that's basically what Mike Johnson is saying. He said, listen, if we put a stopgap measure together that allows for us to continue to fund the government up through this particular time frame, then we can come back and then really take care of business and take care of things. But that's not what the Democrats want, and anything that we do is going to have Democrat support. So if that be the case, if they're saying that we're going to have to shove this thing through an entire budget instead of a stopgap measure until we really get something done, then we just going to have to shut the federal government down. And the American people have voted, and this is one of the things that we was talking about inside of our group chat. The American people have voted, and they said, listen, we want to fix this thing once and for all. And we don't want to continue to shove through that trash that we've been dealing with over the last 4 years. We want to fix it. And if your Democrat legislators actually cared about y'all, they will get on board and fix things. I think that the smartest thing for the Democrats to do, honestly, to be honest with you, I think that the smartest thing for Democrats to do would be to get on board and make sure that they got things together. But I don't think that that's what's going to happen. I think that they are absolutely still butthurt at the fact that Trump won, and that's what you're going to see them start to take it out on. Listen, you guys are in shambles. Y'all are in trouble. You can't fix this by continuing to be butthurt, and you need to get on board. I think that the American people will actually reward y'all if y'all did the right thing instead of still trying to stand on business on these dumb things.